Frieza, the greatest threat to the Dragon Ball universe, or at least Universe 10, the second true antagonist of the show in what I consider to be the best arc of Dragon Ball Z. Frieza was the third person in the series to introduce us to what would become a mainstay of the series, transforming. But how many transformations does Frieza have? How strong are they? What do they look like? And why does he have them in the first place? In today's video, we find out. This is Frieza's transformations explained. So a little bit of housekeeping here. The Ozaru transformations that Saiyans have are for some reason not included in this, even though they are transforming aliens. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know. So don't hit me in the comments because they're not there. Oh, Ozaru's a transformation. I mean, it is, and I agree with you guys, but for some reason it didn't make this. So don't kill me in the comments. So, as I'm sure you guys know, Frieza is an alien. Shocking, right? And in the Dragon Ball universe, some alien species have the ability to alter their appearance. This is known as a transforming ability. And they really hit these things on the nose, don't they? And this ability is realistically used for only a couple of reasons. Either one, to blend in, or two, to conserve or suppress your energy. And this is what Frieza uses his transformations for. See, Frieza's race is a naturally strong, and Frieza's family are standouts within his race. And Frieza, being the prodigy he is the strongest of them, with the possible exception of his father, King Cold, though we never really get to see King Cold do anything in the series. And at this point, Frieza is yards, like just miles stronger than Cold anyway, so yeah. And to make sure their powers don't accidentally just destroy everything they are near, they change their forms to suppress their true power. And Frieza's race can do this 3 times, giving them 4 forms, and they do this by basically creating biosuits that change their height, appearance, and even their voice, with each one being stronger than the last, and their true base form being their 4th transformation. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, so let's go over his forms. So, the first form. So this is the form Frieza is in when we first meet him. Technically his weakest form, he still has the power to obliterate a planet, and no warrior that we know of up until the events of Namek ever made him leave this form. The only one that might have been is his father, seeing as Frieza stated, he only had to exert himself was while he was training with his father. So we never really get a power level in this form, but as I previously stated, in this form, he is the strongest in the universe, with only Beerus, Whis, and Majin Buu being the exceptions that we know of. In this form, he is strong enough to destroy planets and is stronger than Vegeta after all of his Zenkai boost he obtained up to that point. And in this form, he is about as tall as Vegeta. He wears the standard armor, though his has a purple chest piece, but underneath this, he has basically bio armor, and it's more or less the same shape, except it's white and without the pointed shoulder pieces. He has a rounded head with like a purple smooth part going up the middle, and it appears almost like a helmet. He wears a black Speedo. Again, that may be part of his anatomy. He has a long tail with purple on the end of it, and he has like hard armor around his forearms and his shins. His feet are 3-toed, and they are fully prehensile. Also, his body has black rings covering his pinkish purple skin, and he has 2 horns coming straight off the side of his head. So now we can move on to his second form. So basically, when Vegeta starts getting a little too cocky, wanting to humiliate Frieza at his full power, Frieza decides to humor him and transform into his second form. Mind you, at this point, Vegeta does not know Frieza has 3 transformations after the form he's currently in. He thinks, like Zarbon and Dodoria, that Frieza's just going to transform one time and then just be done with it. So when he's transforming into this form, he releases a blinding light of energy, and this will basically shatter whatever he's wearing. Then his body will start to swell and grow until he reaches the second form. And this process really does look pretty painful, and it kind of stays painful until he's finished transforming. In this form, he claims that his power level is 1 million, and from what we see, there's no reason to doubt that. He easily outclasses Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan, and he's only matched in this form by Piccolo after he fuses with Nail. So in this form, he is as strong as half of an ancient Namekian and the strongest Namekian on that planet at the time. In this form, he grows significantly taller, being taller than Piccolo. He becomes more muscular. His shoulder pads of his armor kind of tend to move further down his arms, and his facial features become way more defined and chiseled. The horns on his head will get longer and turn up like bull horns. But now we can talk about Frieza's third form. So when Piccolo starts to kind of push and outclass Frieza in his second form, he starts smiling, telling Piccolo that, you weren't here for my transformations. You'd think this is just me. But I have 2 more transformations after this one. And then he starts to transform into his third form. So when he begins his transformation, he will start to release a large amount of energy like he does with all the rest of his forms. Then horns will grow from his back. His shoulder pads will lift up and become more spiky, kind of resembling the armor that everybody else wears. His face will kind of grow and contort with his head stretching and growing longer. And then the black horns just kind of disappear, being replaced with 4 white ones that grow off the side of his head. His overall height won't actually change, but because his head looks so, kind of distorted and his shoulder pads and stuff are leaning up, he does actually appear to be a little bit taller. We never get to know the power level of this form, which kind of makes sense, as Frieza says no one has ever pushed him to using this form in battle, and the fighters on Namek are the only ones to ever actually see him in it. So we don't actually know, just how strong this is. We just know it's somewhere in between power level 1 million and whatever his final form is. But speaking of that, the fourth and final, basically Frieza's base form. So when Gohan starts to unleash his true power and starts pressuring him in his third form, this kind of angers Frieza, and he decides, in his words, to show them a terror beyond death. And then he transforms into his final form. Though he does kind of say he could have defeated them all in his third form, so this was literally just to flat out humiliate them. To transform into this form, he releases a large amount of energy and essentially forces his biosuit to start glowing red. Then his energy will start to kind of make the suit crack around him, eventually just exploding out, and from within his third form, he stands his final form. This form, it's about the same height as his first form, but much sleeker. The external armor is gone, and his pink skin has turned white. His head is still round, though now it doesn't look like a helmet. He still appears to have some armor on his arms and his legs, but his body no longer has any of that, which kind of makes sense. This is his final form. He is stronger here than he is in any of the forms. He doesn't need the armor protecting him. So like I said, this is Frieza's true form, and in it, he has access to all of his power. Once again, we don't get an exact number for this form, but we can kind of defer because it's still weaker than a new Super Saiyan transformation, although this was after Frieza had been fighting Goku for a while and had just tanked a universe-level Spirit Bomb. And since Super Saiyan's just like a 10 times multiplier on the power, I would put this form, at least at that moment, about 8 times stronger than base Namek Goku. And I hope that math kind of adds up, but this is the form we would see Frieza in pretty much for the rest of the series. We briefly see him turn back into his first form during the Resurrection F sagas, both the movie and the anime, where it's shown that he can actually learn to go from his first form to his final form, just straight away without doing the other transformations in between, and he basically just learns how to do this from training. But that being said, Frieza can improve on this form. And he does this by basically just bulking up this form into a more muscular and powerful form where he uses all of his power. The downside of this being he can't hold this form for very long, and he never trains in it because he's never actually had to leave his first form. So we don't really know just how long he can hold this form for. We just know it's probably less than or around the 5 minutes it took for his energy ball to destroy planet Namek. The bulkiness of this form, as well as the power draw, actually end up being this form's downfall because he's not fast enough to dodge his own attack and cuts himself in half. And like I said, the stamina draw. So even without that improvement on this form, he is actually still the 4th strongest being in the universe as of that time. And unfortunately, because of that, we don't really get to see any great feats from this form. He loses to Goku, and then this is pretty much just his base form through the rest of it, and just due to power scaling, this form isn't really all that relevant anymore within the series. So we never really get to see any great things from this form, except for the fact that it survived the explosion of planet Namek after being bisected, and he may have only been able to do this because he got some energy from Goku, but he does still live it. So those are kind of really the only real feats we get from him in this form. But now Frieza can also improve this form through training, but I am going to get to that in a minute. Because real quick, I gotta talk about Mecha Frieza. So, what I like to call Mecha Frieza is not an actual transformation. Basically, after surviving being bisected and the explosion of Planet Namek, Frieza is saved by his father, King Cold, who would then proceed to repair Frieza with mechanical parts. In doing this, his lower body, left arm, right side of his chest, and his head were replaced with robot parts. And we can assume this form is at least as strong as his final form would normally be, though he most likely cannot use his improved form, because there's not enough left of him to improve. But it is sort of implied that he is a little stronger. However, we never get the chance to find out since this is we never get the chance to find out because this form is essentially defeated by Future Trunks in his base Super Saiyan form. And we know at this point that Trunks is stronger than Namek Goku, who had already beaten Frieza, so we really can't say just how strong this form would have actually been. But that does kind of mark the end of Frieza's power suppressing transformations, but he still does continue to improve just through power multipliers instead of actual transformations to his body. The first of those being Golden Frieza. So after being defeated by Trunks, Frieza is banished to Hell. His hell being a flower garden, which I just find to be hilarious, where he is stuck for years until his subordinates wish him back to life. Though, since he was split up and most of him destroyed, all they could bring back were pieces, so they had to put him in one of their healing tanks. And when they brought him back to his full form, it brought him back to his first form. And the second he is brought back to life, he breaks every scouter on his ship. But it's here that we find out that he's never trained a day in his life. To quote Frieza, "I've never trained a day in my life. There was never a need up until now." Until now being revenge. So what does Frieza do? He goes and trains for, I want to say it's 4, maybe 6 months, until he obtains this new Golden Frieza form. And this transformation actually very much impresses Goku, because Goku has had to work for years to get his strength, and Frieza caught up within a few months. So when he starts to transform, he will release a huge amount of golden energy from his body. Then in a blinding golden light, he just kind of holds out his arms and moves his head back, kind of like a Christ pose. And then the golden light will just kind of attach itself to his body, and that's how he transforms into Golden Frieza. And the overall look is like his final form. However, the white has all been replaced by gold, and his head, mouth, and the center of his chest are all still purple. And it's kind of implied that Frieza created this form and chose its golden appearance basically to step up on Goku and Vegeta, to remind them like where they fall in the pecking order is pretty much the way he says it. And we know this form is at least as strong as a Super Saiyan Blue Goku, at least when they go up against one another. Frieza does actually train to use the form and maintain it while he's in Hell, so that way he doesn't really get affected by the power drain on it at all. But unfortunately for everybody in the universe, this form actually pales in comparison to Frieza's newest form, Black Frieza. So, Frieza obtained this form by training in a hyperbolic time chamber that he had found for 10 years. And even he said that to obtain this form was not easy. Mind you, Frieza is a prodigy who caught up with Goku in a mere matter of months. And it took him 10 years to master this form. But it was worth it. In this form, Frieza is, without a doubt, the strongest person in the universe, with the exceptions of the gods and the angels. So by the time we actually see him in this form, he's become so adept at using it that he can just change into it within a second. You can't even see the transformation happen, and then he can change back faster than you can see it happen too. All of it happening literally within a second. Like, by the time you counted to 1, he is transformed, knocked you out, transformed back to his base form, and is standing in the spot he was before you realized he knocked you out. So the appearance, once again, pretty much the same as his base form, except most of him is black, with the exception of his chest and face being white, and then obviously he's still has his purple areas are still purple. But like I said, in this form, he is the strongest person in the universe. He rivals the gods, that's not even a question. And he outpaces Goku and Vegeta in their Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego forms without even trying. So, welcome to the new strongest mortal in the universe. But that's it though. That is every Frieza transformation as of the recording of this video, which would be the end of, I believe, the Granola arc in the manga. And I'm so glad they gave Frieza more relevance here. I was afraid he was going to get kind of pushed into the backside, just be like the guy who, oh yeah, I'm the strong bad guy who shows up with the other stronger bad guy. I didn't want to get him to get relevant. Like, I didn't want him to get delegated to that. Like, I wanted Frieza to be the monster that he is. And he is. And that's awesome. But let me know what you guys think. Did I miss anything? Is there more you guys would like to see me go more in depth on for his transformations? What's your favorite transformation? Who's your favorite bad guy from the series? And I don't mean just like Dragon Ball Super. I mean Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, GT, Super, all of it. Let me know that in the comments section down below. And while you're down there, guys, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me. And I will see you guys in the next video.